have failed to achieve what we wanted the most.
Not scary! Prevents it fighting on a one-day strike, but now in trouble!
He's feeling himself. I can hear him hollering on stage. He wants one more, and he's gonna get it! Trouble! That's my face!
Let's go!
It's coming through you down the quadrant! It's gonna be a finish of the coming!
And the first time in history, the fourth consecutive EU LCS title! G2 Esports!
Underdog in this game. No one expected anything but anything hard.
Let's make this a clean fight!
Welcome to week 3 of the LCS Spring Split. The race for the top spots is heating up, and with the new contenders finding their form, we have got some explosive fights ahead of us. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sjokz supporter, joined here once again by Maurice Amazing Stuckenschneider to start off the week.
I'm glad to be back.
I'm very glad that you're back as well. Let's dive straight into the standings after 2 weeks. We've seen a lot of surprises already, and currently leading the league are Vitality, Roccat, Giants, and Misfits. And when it comes to Vitality and Misfits, they just battled it out last week against each other. Misfits won in the end, and Vitality gave up their *1 spot. But how much the wiser about their power levels are we after that match?
I still think that both teams are really, really strong, probably equally strong. Vitality came in with a great early to mid game. They've shown a lot of aggression. They showed what they are capable of. And Misfits came back with the Nashor Steel, obviously, and showed that their teamfight prowess later in the game carries them through wins.
But no man overboard for Vitality, but it does raise the question, how will they now do with that first loss under their belt? Maurice, you were very vocal about their emotions and how emotional they may be as the season goes on. So what do you think will happen?
I think the emotions were already let loose kind of on Twitter, especially when he saw mini true packs, and I think Jack Troll's unfollowing everyone and just showing that they're really showing emotions about that very loss. But I think they had a week to reset now, so I wouldn't expect them to come in like shaky, whatever it is. I actually think that Yamato can rail them in.
Well, we'll see how resilient they are today, and we'll also have to see how resilient G2 and Fnatic are. Two of the top teams from last year now at the bottom of the table. So same question, how are they going to come into this week, and how do you think they've ended up in this position?
I think both teams are really still trying to find their groove. I think especially the bot lanes themselves, like they seem kind of out of sync with the rest of the team, especially Kjernan and Vadid. Almost like gave away a couple of wins, and I think that has to change for them to perform to their other best. All
right, we will see what happens. They have a lot to play with as they will be playing on patch 8.2 this week. And Drakos, you are here to take a closer look at some of those changes.
Yes, I am, Sjokz. 8.2, pretty large patch. There's a lot to cover, so we're going to break it down into 3 different categories. Champions, changes to support itemization, and some changes to runes as well. Starting off in the champions, there is one big fat buff we have to talk about, and it's on big fat Nunu. Consume now not only makes him stronger, but something you need to be aware of is Blood Boil. You can see this wonderful clip, this wonderful simulation of 8.2, Nunu and Azir together. AP, attack speed, Azir absolutely loves to have it, and you should keep your eyes out on the Rift for Nunu to be a massive threat if he does make it into the late game. But on the side of nerfs, of course, Malzahar has been taken down a notch. K6 and Ezreal as well have been tuned down just a little bit. But the biggest nerf I feel like overall is probably to Ornn. His ult cooldown is way up. 30 seconds more as we go later in the game can be a huge change to how often he can impact teamfights overall. And additionally, his landing phase is going to hurt a lot more because Bellows Breath, his W, now has the unstoppable portion removed. Arguably larger than this, though, is the support itemization nerfs. First off, 50% healing value for ranged champions who want to abuse that Relic Shield. That means the double Relic Shield bot lane, a lot weaker in terms of lane sustain. However, it does still give the full gold value, so if you're looking for the economic benefits, they are there. However, across the board, support itemization has changed too. All quests, they're now the same quest. You get a Sight Stone at the end of it, but that may be good for supports. They don't have to buy a Sightstone anymore. 80 carries, really sad. They have the reduced healing. Now they don't get the Targon shield either. Additionally, a lot of the items have been removed that would have built out of this. Now, supports, for the most part, didn't build them. Face of the Mountain, Talisman of Ascension, not something we saw a lot in competitive play, but Frost Queen's claim is a big one, not for supports, but for mid laners and for top laners. They really like to have the gold generation. The active was useful as well, but most importantly, the economic change, the hurt it's going to put on them from generating gold over a longer time can be a pretty big issue. Last thing we want to cover is runes. Kleptomancy has been tuned back. No longer are you going to get quite as many items when you look across the early game. This means your GPs and your Ezreals aren't as frequently going to get those 10, 11-minute Triforces. It's going to be a lot harder for them to kind of abuse this to power spike earlier in the game. And the last thing we have to talk about is Zombie Ward. This is actually a huge vision change. You saw the entire map littered in 8.1. It's going to be a little bit rougher now because as opposed to before when you would get a 3-minute duration on all the wards, the zombie wards, you're now going to get 1 minute at the start of the game. It's scaling up to 3 minutes over the course of the game, so tracking early jungle pathing, preventing early ganks will be a little bit more difficult, but of course it was a very dense patch. That's just what impressed me. Sjokz, what was your impression?
Well, I have to say I hear a lot about AD carry or bot lane in general changes together with the support changes, and then Ezreal with a bit of a nerf. Also, Jinx has got a slight buff, and you talked a lot about AD carries and the ones of G2 in specific. So how much is this really going to affect the bottom lane?
I'm really happy about the Ezreal change. I think he was too dominant almost in the ultimate game, and it will definitely take him down a notch. And Jinx now coming in, actually having that attack speed buff, is definitely going to shake up the field quite a bit.
All right, that's all very interesting, but I think it's about time for Maurice's minutes. I want to know the single most thing that you are most excited about going into this week.
I'm excited about the jungle changes. I think it's been a really stale meta. Like, we've seen a lot of Jarvan, Santorin, and the recent changes to Nunu, Eve, and Kha'Zix will kind of change up the field, because I think Nunu now being buffed means that he's going to be like entering that space that Sejuani and J4 have been dominating for such a long time, where they basically are able to gank early, force teamfights whenever they want to, and dominate every 1v1. And I think that's going to change quite a bit now, with Nunu and Zac already showing some up-and-coming play. And we've seen the win rates, we've seen play rates like of Jarvan and Sejuani. I think it's going to be like a top 4 coming in, where all 4 champions are going to see equal play in multiple comps.
Well, I'd be very excited to see a bit of a changing up in the jungle pool. Not always Jarvan and Sejuani. Obviously, we've seen a lot of Zac already, but Nunu in the mix. Now, that would be very exciting, and we'll see how that evolves as we continue. But now, let's take a look at the schedule and see what kind of impacts the patch will have on these matches. We're going to start things off with the Unicorns of Love and H2k. We also have Giants versus Roccat for first place, and our match of the week, Schalke 04 versus Vitality. Quick prediction, who's going to win, Schalke or Vitality?
Gilius.
Gilius is going to win in that matchup. Well, that's all we need to know. We've got the Unicorns of Love and H2k ready on stage right now, with the Unicorns looking to secure their first win of the split against that new H2k roster. Let's send it over to the casters and hit the rift.
Thank you very much, Sjokz and Maurice. Hello, everybody. I'm Trevor Quickshot Henry, joined at the desk by Deficio.
You excited about 8.2?
Cannot wait. I want to see if Nunu makes it through. That's what I'm interested in.
We're going to see him like once today, maybe.
Once today,
At
maybe.
least.
Not the most confident prediction. Let's check out the starting lineups. Deficio on the blue side. It is the only team yet to pick up a win here in Europe. It is the Unicorns of Love. WhiteKnight, Kold, Exileh, Samux, Totoro, and their coach, Sheepy.
Well, luckily for Unicorns of Love, they play another team that's down in the bottom with them right now. It is H2k on the other side, currently 1 and 3 in the standings, and it is Smittyj up in the top lane, Santorin in the jungle, Caedrel mid, Sheriff AD carry, Promisq support, and Veteran is the coach behind them, hoping to get some more wins for his team.
And the players are almost ready for picks and bans. Just before we jump into the game, let's take a quick look at some of the aspects of this game and these two struggling teams. Unicorns of Love is where I want to start. Sheepy's has needed to rebuild this team, trying to recreate another LCS contender, and it's not working yet. There's a lot of struggling parts. Multiple members of the team are not coming together well, and I want to dial in on Exileh, who is continuing to underperform in that mid lane. We started seeing that last year in 2017, and now look at this. Worst in KDA, worst in deaths per game, worst in isolated death per game, worst in kill participation. It is not looking good for Exileh and UOL.
And the saddest thing is a lot of their mistakes from Exileh are very unnecessary. It's being too aggressive, looking for a little trade. He's not going to get a kill. He just wants to deal a bit of damage to the enemy mid lane or enemy jungler, and then suddenly he finds himself overextended. He gets ganked, he dies, he falls behind. These kind of things happen a little bit too often. I would love to see him play actually just more passive, because the mechanics are there. We've seen good team fighting from Exileh in the past as well, but it's the early game where he's just playing way too greedy.
And talking about early game, let's turn our attention to H2k. Somebody who's very active in the early game, but not necessarily gaining those advantages is Santorin, the man to the left of the player cams. Spends a lot of time around his laners. In terms of jungle proximity, which is that left-hand stat, the highest amount of time between 2 and 15 minutes spent around his laners, but it's not very effective, Deficio.
Exactly. Like, it looks great that you're spending a lot of time with your laners, but then in the middle, you see the kills plus assist at 15 minutes. He's dead last for junglers in the UOL CS, only 0.5, so he's not gaining a lot of at least kills and assists with it. If they can maybe then push down early tower because of his pressure, that's something. But we don't really see too much happening in the H2k early game, which is why when they draft comps that get outscaled, they tend to get in trouble. Yeah,
the one time they had that scaling composition, the only win between these two teams was against Fnatic. H2k had a late game scaling comp. They had Sheriff on that vein. They punished a mistake at Baron by Fnatic, and that's what allowed H2k back into the game and actually to pick up the win. Now, that was back in week 1, because in week 2...
A long time ago.
It was a long time ago. Hey, 2 weeks, you know, 2 games on stage.
It's a long time in esports.
And Deficio, last week's Baron calls from H2k, well, they cost a lot, because, of course, H2k went to the Baron, lost the fight at Baron, then lost Baron, then lost the game in phenomenal fashion.
Yeah, and the worst part was... going for Baron is not necessarily the wrong call from this team, but how they execute at the Baron or immediately after the Baron. That's where we get some of the problems. And one of the things we actually wanted to do here in this pick and ban phase is talk about the bans a little bit later, but first take a look back at one of those Barons.
Yeah, exactly, because H2k, specifically against Misfits, which you can see on your screen, this game was even. It was 1 kill to 0 in favor of Misfits, and they went for the play.
What's this?
And they get punished for it.
Like, all of them are staying behind the Baron, except for Santorin, who jumps out, and then he flashes back in, and they're taking damage from the Baron. They're stuck in the pit. Like, not great, Trevor. Another thing that's not great is how much we buffed Nuno. Yes. And that's why he's banned in our first game.
Exactly. And looking back at the replay, of course, there was an Azir and a Tristana on the side of H2k. They had the ability to scale and defend if they can hold off. If they don't, get absolutely run over.
Yeah, if not every single member died in that fight, and this is what happened. They lost the game a minute later, and it's happened twice now for H2k. They lose the Baron, they lose the game.
Let's turn our attention to the champions, of course. Sejuani, Cogmore, Tom Kench, all played last week. Tom Kench, one of 2 champions that's still 100% presence, I believe, along with Kalista, in fact. Both of them are banned away. Galio, Camille,
I like the Galio ban.
Not really too surprising here. Nunu on the current patch, 8.2, that's why he's gone.
See, I still love Sejuani when she's available. I think she's far and away the best jungler you can pick. So I think that would be a good choice for Unicorns of Love. But there's a problem for them. They played Azir once. It didn't go well. I don't think they want to play Azir again. And I think they're scared that if they don't grab the Ryze here, H2k picks it up, and Exileh might be forced into playing Azir, which is not really in his favor. So they grab it early in this draft.
And that explains their priority, you know, remove that risk. Zoe was still up. Caedrel fancies his chance on the aspect of the Twilight, I believe is her title. And Deficio, to go back to our sort of pre-game, we're going to look at Exileh and his performance this game, see the impact he can have. Because
someone picks Sejuani.
He was one of the most exciting Ryze players last year.
Yeah. He was the original after the rework kind of happened in Europe.
Yes, he brought those Realm War plays to Baron and, you know, put him on the map here in Europe. No Sejuani yet. Kold's going to go for the Jarvan. And H2k are going to have some time to respond here. Do you think they take the Sejuani? The answer is no, because Jayce is locked in instead.
They value getting Smittyj a counter matchup top. And I think this actually does make sense, even though I'm sad to not see the Sejuani. Smittyj is the best performing laner on H2k's side. They like to get him in good matchups where he's on a carry, where he can win and be fit. He can do this on the Jayce. They clearly value it so highly that they take it above the jungler and say, you blind pick Gnar? Great, we have an answer. And Zoe as well for Caedrel. HK were like, if we don't care about you picking Ryze, like there are multiple mid laners we can trade for. Fun not to see Azir in the first one here, but Zoe is still a strong pick.
Well, Sejuani's taken off the table.
Of course.
No surprise there. Let's turn our attention to supports. We heard Drakos talk about the changes on this patch. Obviously, the changes to the new quest line items, giving you that sightstone. Promisq has only played Braum. All 4 games on stage have been on that Braum.
Can do the same again.
Is it worth like first picking in phase 2 at this point? Leave a jungle counter pick if that's a thing?
I mean, they can do that if they just want to guarantee it with also Tahm Kench being banned. I think Braum is a safe blind choice in that regard, unless they think that they can actually counter pick the support from Unicorns of Love. We saw things like Zillion getting picked last week, which came kind of out of nowhere.
Yep.
That could be a surprise. Promisq might have ready, but I think going Braum would also be fine. Like, technically, the last 2 picks to have jungle and support are probably some of the easiest to blind pick in the current meta. So it's a pretty easy last phase for them.
We'll see what H2k decides. It's going to be a Zac after the Sejuani Kha'Zix rounded out UOL's bans. Still, very powerful pick. Still has got some team fight in it, but when I look at the rest of the H2k champs, it's Poke Deluxe, Siege Deluxe with that Jayce, Caitlyn, and Zoe.
5 traps down, bubble from long range, firing away. Smittyj winning his side lane, going into mid as well, like super strong siege comp from H2k. A lot more focus on Unicorn side on engaging, which of course is a great answer to siege. So it might actually get a game here where we have H2k lining up to try and land the poke, and then Unicorns Love pulling the trigger and forcing the fight. That would be great to see. You got Alistar right now, you got Jarvan, you have Ryze ultis. Like, there are so many ways for Unicorns to start a team fight. I would like Braum here. I think he's great against, you know, this kind of engage, and you have a lot of poke to protect.
Promisq currently 4 games played on that Braum. Obviously, only that single victory to his name.
The value last pick, the Braum.
Against Fnatic, and it is the Braum last pick. So we've got ourselves the makings of that poke siege comp from H2k, and somewhat of a death ball composition here from UOL. They definitely want to group up and throw themselves at H2k.
A lot of tools in the early game as well. A lot of lanes I feel like they can play around, because you have mid lane with Exileh, who can very easily Rune Prison onto a Zoe. Currently sitting on Cleanse, which is could be a smart choice against the Ryze, but you know, Rune Prison Zoe, she can't get away. Jarvan gank. We've seen that happen already. Bot lane, Alistar engages, followed up by Jarvan. Like, there are 2 lanes there you can definitely play around if you are the Unicorns of Love. It's only top lane that might be a bit of an issue for you.
Other than maybe the priority on picks, are you a little surprised? First draft on 8.2, currently the teams that are sitting at the bottom of the table, no real curveballs yet, right?
I mean, this patch didn't actually bring that many champion changes.
Right.
I think one thing to highlight, of course, is the nerf to Ezreal was fairly large. And
so he's not there.
So he's not there. Ornn as well did receive a pretty big nerf. I think these champions can still be played, but in this draft, we clearly see them go down the priority list. Yep. Not even picked, not even banned. I still think not having a Azir is kind of odd, because he's my favorite mid laner at the moment, but still, Ryze, Zoe, just like last patch.
Well, look, Caedrel opted into that Zoe-Ryze matchup, right? It was first pick Ryze, first rotation Zoe. Let's see what Caedrel can do with that aspect of the Twilight. Kold, the man on your screen, once known as Trashy. Locked in the Jarvan as opposed to the Sejuani, which was open and available. So let's see some early ganks, let's see some early pressure on that pick, especially when you've got, you know, lanes like the Alistar, like the Ryze that you can gank from, play around if you want to.
Crowd just keeps it going, man. They're like, come on, cut into the game here. We've been clapping for like 30 seconds.
They have indeed, as we load up onto the game. It is the very first game of patch 8.2 worldwide here in the European LCS. Unicorns of Love taking on H2k-Gaming. Both teams looking for a win. Unicorns looking to just pick up their first of the 2018 season.
And H2k looking to move closer to the playoffs spots here and get away from Unicorns down at the bottom. Remember though, there is no relegation here in the Spring Split.
Oh man, no relegation, so they've got that safety to play with, but nobody wants to be at the bottom, especially for 2 teams that have regularly found themselves in the playoffs. Deficio, new patch, new discussion point, new topic. Oh. No relic shield. Yay!
AD carries, buying real items early on.
Now, Deficio, I don't understand what this is. Can you explain it to me?
Yes, Trevor, I can. First of all, the healing from ranged champions when they proc it is reduced by 50%, so less sustained for your support next to you. More importantly, the bonus you used to get when you upgraded Relic Shield to Targon's Brace, the shield an AD carry would get, was super effective. Also with overheal in there, you got a lot of extra HP.
Yes.
That is completely gone, because this Relic Shield line and these support item lines are changed. Those quest rewards no longer exist. Now you get wards. You get effectively what used to be the Sightstone. And AD carries, they don't want to ward anything, so they step away from it. They just wanted the shield from Targon Sprays. It's gone. That means Doran Shield, Doran's Blade. We like it.
Okay, so Doran Shield, Doran's Blade. Let's see if that continues all day long. It should. That's the expectation.
It should.
Sometimes.
Unless you really want to play a game where you have like 3 Sightstones or 2 Sightstones and a Tracker's Knife and you love Vision, you can do that. Okay. Just makes you a little bit weaker as an AD carry because it doesn't really give you any combat stats you want.
Yeah, no combat stats, but maybe you don't need combat stats if you have wards for vision.
And you can see the enemy.
That's the goal.
You just can't fight them, but you can see them.
Well, talking about fighting, Kold fancies himself a shot at Caedrel. Rune Prison continues to chase down Caedrel. Flash is available. First blood picked up by Kold in Exile.
And I just want to say, we set this in Champ Select already. Ryze, Jarvan can gank the Zoe. They did level 2. We didn't get to follow it from level 1 to level 2 because we were busy talking about AD carries not buying Relic Shield. But we've seen this like 3 times in the UOL CS when Ryze plays against Zoe. Jarvan gets 1 buff and he goes mid.
Yeah, works out. So, early advantage to...
Also, he stole away H2k's red buff. Right now, you can see Santorin is on top side with the Croxy, and Kold just took the 2nd red buff for himself. So not only does he kill the mid laner, he also counter jungles. That's insane.
Really good start here for Kold and the Unicorns of Love.
And a Dane invading a Dane just seems wrong.
Well, this time round, it's the Unicorns Dane that came out on top. And, you know, I imagine that is going to be a very big confidence boost for Exileh. Help him out in the lane. He's already got a tier at 3 minutes on the clock.
I mean, yeah, it's a pretty good start in that mid lane. Caedrel's Cleanse was also used before. I didn't get to see if he actually used it before the snare even hit him or not, but didn't matter. He couldn't actually stay alive.
Yeah, too much damage to follow up on that level 2 Zoe. And of course, we are working on getting those Keystones graphic onto your screen.
So our boy Samux here, our boy Samux here, Trevor, said, you know what? No double Relic Shield, less sustain, so I'm gonna bring some biscuits instead. So he's going to stay safe in this lane. He knows this poke from a Caitlyn. Probably will never get him low enough with the current builds he's going to get and the biscuits he's going to get to actually be much of a threat against him. But that means if you are Unicorns of Love, keep going mid lane, because Samux is fine bot lane. Don't worry about him.
Yeah, definitely going to just sustain themselves up. Do relatively well. Let's talk about some of the other lanes we've not looked at yet. Smittyj is pushing in heavily into WhiteKnight up top.
As expected.
That minion wave, 2 of them getting closer and closer to the tower. So there's no surprises here. But this does open up Smittyj to a gank by Kold if he continues.
Yeah, he knows Kold is on top side. You saw Caedrel already backed away. He's like, nope, not doing this again. Kold really wants the mid lane or the Raptor camp. Why not both in this case? Santorin on his way to spot him. Still waiting around. Santorin will find him, and Smittyj also backed away. There's the Raptor camp. Unlucky timing. Just there 10 seconds too early. And Santorin gets to secure the camp for himself. Good early start, though, from Kold. Exactly what we want to see. WhiteKnight doesn't really want to show his image on that Gnar up in the top lane.
I can't wait for them to fix Mega Gnar's portrait. It will come back sooner or later. But it's a 300 gold lead for the Unicorns of Love. That CS deficit by WhiteKnight is part of the reason H2k are keeping it close. But it's still very, very early, and as it stands, the Unicorns of Love just going to be content with this early start.
Oh, he's going to stop the recall.
Do you think so? Not this time.
What? Easiest recall. Interrupt right there. Totoro didn't want to go for it, but look at this. Look at this, guys. We got the Keystones. What do we see on one side over at H2k? We have Spellbook, mid lane, and bot lane, and instantly Sheriff swaps to TP, Promisq swaps to TP. This is going to be a thing that's even bigger now, is that we're going to get a lot of spell books. People really learn to use them on AD carries, typically on supports as well, and then you get these 5-6 TP games where it's all about pushing lanes, recall, get TP back to lane, and just continue the pressure and try and get a tempo advantage. Sheriff is early right now. Samux did not change his summoners, saved the heal for now.
So what you're trying to tell me is it's all going to be about tempo.
And it's going to be a lot about pushing lanes.
Pushing the lane.
And then roaming first because you TP in or try and secure bot lane, tower, all these kind of things. We will see with this TP meta.
TP meta, stopwatch meta, game 1 and 8.2. So he's going to be more effective with it. The last time we talked about support itemization, Deficio, a kill happened. So I'm going to try it again.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of the removed support items.
Oh.
Of course, the old tier 3 upgrades.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Heart
No
of
longer there.
Gold, Frost Queen's Claim now.
You're going way back.
I know, that's an old school one. But Frost Queen's Claim, Talisman, Face of the Mountain, they're all dead. They're gone. We didn't even like nerf them, change them. We just killed them straight away. Simply means now that when you have your Targon's Brace, in this case, you have both these supports to upgrade the Relic Shield once, get 500 gold, and they will automatically upgrade into what is now the new Sightstone. Start with only getting 1 ward, but once you go back to base, you can fill it up, get 3 wards from it. You can then further upgrade it to get a bit more stats from it and an extra ward for yourself. And it simply means as a support now, you can much quicker get to building real items and not just Sightstone.
And that feels good. That feels very good.
It actually feels really good. I like the change quite a lot. I think it makes it a lot more fun. There's a lot more different supports you can play because you can kind of change how you're now building when you don't have to rush for the same Sightstone item every game.
And look at this. We talk about support itemization, and shenanigans are afoot. We got a bit of a swap on our hands, or not a swap rather. Different focus of pressure. Caedrel is heading up to help out Smittyj along with Santorin. Top outer tower is going to be the focus. Of course, on this patch, the outer turret's got a little bit tankier in the early game. We'll take a few extra shots. Maybe that extra armor is what keeps Unicorn's top lane tower alive for now. Take a quick glance down the bottom lane. Fairly equal damage. No tower first blood yet.
But that was a roam here from Caedrel and Santorin to top side. Smittyj should be able to get this tower down. We talked about his champ select already. Giving him the counter matchup makes a lot of sense because Smittyj is a good laner. He's been winning lanes so far in the LCS. He's been dealing a ton of damage for H2k as well from that top lane. So he's kind of been the standout player for H2k in the first 2 weeks. And giving him the Jayce, having him go up 25 CS already and will soon take a tower, great for H2k.
Yeah, really.
Santorin is here to make sure.
I mean, it's a big advantage here. Santorin's going to show his face to help out. Kold was down bottom. There's one of those teleports being channeled.
That's Promisq.
Promisq joining the fight. In fact, he's going to cancel it. That was just to keep the minion up, I imagine, for a potential dive or some sort of play that never came about. The race for tower first blood is on. Samux and Totoro, they've got some support from Kold, and it looks like Unicorns are going to win this. They got first blood in the mid lane. They get tower first blood in the bottom lane. But Deficio, I do have a very quick stat for you. Did you know that the team that gets first tower this year only wins 40% of the time? And the team that gets first dragon only wins 45% of the time out of the games you've had so far.
So now there's actually a higher chance Unicorns lose.
Correct.
Than win,
That's what it
based on
means.
them getting bot lane
The
tower.
Love Hurts crew are shaking their head at me. They are disappointed, but the stats don't lie, especially when they're that quick.
And to give a reason, you know, we are in a meta where if you draft for early game and you secure early turrets and early objectives, you end up often having a weaker late game comp. And the game's been very long most of the time. Teams have kind of struggled to cleanly close them out in time, so we get to 40 minutes. And then the late game comp will just get stronger and stronger, Trevor. And then they will win the late game team fight. So very few teams have been able to use an early advantage to close out a game. I think Vitality has shown us they can do it.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons it's really fun to watch them play. Other teams have said, full late game, don't take any objectives early on, wait 30 minutes, and then start playing League of Legends.
I love it. Take me back to Season 2, where it was 30 minutes of farming and a couple of team fights to decide the winner.
Trevor.
Here we talk about items. Ooh, flash for flash. Totoro is looking for Caedrel. The stopwatch means Caedrel will stay alive a few seconds longer. Totoro uses the minion taxi to shuffle his way out, and that's going to at least be the summoner spells secured on Caedrel, but no kill down.
2 summoners gone. Totoro actually seems to have Hex Flash for himself. I like that on Alistar. That means that once you actually already use your flash, you can still look for crazy roams. It's not great if they're standing right in front of you, because they can see you charge it up. But if you're hiding, you know, around walls, you can use it over the wall to appear behind them all of a sudden. It's really good if you want to roam a lot. Moby Boots already completed for this Alistar. Let's see how he uses the Hex Flash for himself in this game here. Unixlove already had 1,500 gold. They have Exileh winning mid lane. He's not been punished at all. He got that first blood for himself, and it's a great start. Much safer start for Unicorns Aloft compared to what we've seen in some of the other games.
Yeah, and of course the gold lead in favor of Unicorns, the objective lead. They were the first to the punch for the kill, for the tower. Even that lane that is currently being bullied, WhiteKnight, who is down a significant amount of CS, 20 at this point, is kind of balanced by the team gold and the advantageous gold that the rest of the squad picked up. And so far, I'm impressed by what I'm seeing from Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, I mean, Verius, he was studying Unicorns of Love during the week, and he really noticed how good they were at playing around one winning lane. When they had a winning lane in the early game, they would commit towards it, and they will make sure that lane snowballed further. Now, it's not been mid lane very often, but it is in this game, and we actually saw the good roam from the Alistar, the force to summoners. Let's see what happens here. Caedrel, no summoners. Risky move.
Was a risky move, doesn't get punished for it. And Unicorns, they get the first dragon. Statistically speaking, fans, this is at the moment a bad sign for UOL. Because 55% of the teams that did not get first dragon won the game.
Is it the same if you get both first tower and first dragon?
You know what? Let's ask the stats team, shall we? Stats team, teams who secure both first tower and first dragon.
And first blood. And first blood.
What is their win percentage? Right now, EU LCS stats team backstage is going, damn you, Deficio.
Or they're going to be like, no one has ever done that, so that's fine. And then we can't really double check it, and they can just lie to us.
Well, we'll find out. Itemization-wise, starting to make our way up.
At some point, I wish I was a stats person, because...
You're not smart enough to be a stats person.
I'm aware of that. But when the casters would be like, hey, give me the stat for some really dumb thing, I would just wait 30 seconds, and then I would just ping them with like a fake number. Be like, yes, if you get first blood, first turret, you have roughly 7% chance of winning the game so far. And then Trevor, as the player
I would say confidently,
you would instantly just say that, and then you can just ruin the entire cast. Probably not the entire cast, but...
Question is, who would double check it? You know, that's the
thing. No one at home can double check this.
Listen, those biscuits that Samux invested in, he's just eaten his very first cookie right now. 13 minutes of laning phase. Unicorns continue to bully H2k around. 1,500 gold lead. Mid tower is the focus, and as it stands, Unicorns, they're grouping up and playing fairly well.
So we already talked about how Exileh is winning mid lane, Samux and Totoro have been controlling bot side. That means H2k's one winning lane is top. And if they want to use Smittyj, then he needs to push his lane past that tier 1 turret that's dead, and then he needs to start moving in towards mid and actually save his team a little bit, because he's the strong member, or he needs to try and go for the tier 2 tower. But right now, he's getting ganged.
Oh, Smittyj, what kind of day will you be having? Teleport's not going to be there in time. In fact, it's cancelled. Hammer to the skies and a cataclysm for Kold means Smittyj is dunked 2-0 in kills. And Unicorns, they are in control.
Losing mid control means the enemy team can roam. Enemy team just roamed to the top lane and killed Smittyj. So the one winning lane for H2k just got set behind a bit more. Means WhiteKnight gets a push out. Probably go back, spend some of his gold. He's been just trying to hold on. 2,000 gold currently on the Gnar. So can go back and get some more tanky items. And it is a problem for H2k. They can only play around top side. But Smittyj has already killed his turret. And they can't really use his advantage any further, because if you can't push for tier 2 tower, well, if you don't control mid, that's too risky, you get ganked. Then he needs to roam to mid lane and try and land poke, but then he's not really utilizing his big lead, and he's building Blade the Ruined King first.
Yes.
That's, I'm gonna auto-attack you in the face build.
Yeah, that's definitely not a...
That's how you auto-attack in the face.
And Siege as a group. Unfortunately, they're...
I did like a saw animation right there when he's auto-attacking.
I wish you could see Deficio's hand movements there. Anyways, I do have an update.
Nothing dirty.
I have an update for you, Deficio. Teams that secure first blood, first tower, and first dragon win 38.5% of the time.
38?
Goes down.
So it's worse.
Correct.
Getting all three extra
Correct. Statistically, I'm saying it that way. So, unfortunately,
That's unlucky, Unicorns of Love.
Now, okay, but now, the reason for that was because it was early game comps.
Yes.
Let's look at the team comps. We're very comfortably easing ourselves into mid-game. They're scaling on the side of UOL.
Yeah, I think the scaling is just fine here for Unicorns of Love. This will not be the kind of game where they hit late game and they have no chance of winning. Jayce in the late game is super hard to execute in team fights. Zoe as well. If you can't land poke before the fight starts, people can jump you, CC you, and you can't get out as a Zoe. So I think Unicorns of Love's comp late game is by no means a lot worse than H2k's. And that means this might be one of the games where they can actually win, despite getting first blood, first turret, and first dragon.
Well, 0-4 in the split. Samux takes a beat down from Sheriff and Promisq, forced to use the Buster Shot just to defend himself, and he does. is able to escape with his life. Here comes Santorin, and it's just to charge out that elastic slingshot, but unable to find anybody with those goopy arms, and that means H2k are still grabbing at straws. They don't even have Rift Herald. Every single map objective that could be secured first has been done so by UOL.
And my boy Smittyj wants to push further, but he's afraid he might get ganked. Now, there is some control mid from Sheriff, and Santorin is in the river right here to try and protect him, so Smittyj can move forward, push another wave, but he needs to get into the enemy jungle and take camps or get to the tier 2 turret before he's really utilizing that lead, and it's hard for him when the rest of the team are pushed that far back on the map. Totoro? No?
No, not this time around. Not this time
around. There's nothing to fight, actually. There was no one there.
We've got a few more stats that we have prepared, Deficio, and looking at the Unicorns of Love jungle proximity, which again is the amount of time that the jungler spends around his laners.
Oh, Trevor.
Every time we do some prep, the engage happens. Promisq is the target. Will flash away to safety. Here comes Santorin. Gets rune prisoned in place and a couple of overloads to his face. For Unicorns of Love, now they're sieging the tower. This is the second of the game. Very big paddle star to Samux, means he almost gets chunked down. Exileh rune prisons Caedrel in reply, but it's Unicorns that get the objective.
It's another outer turret here, Trevor, and you've learned now, whenever you start talking about stats, we get a fight.
Action happens.
This might be the way to break this current meta. For now, though, 17 minutes in. I know it's only 2 kills, but we've had enough stuff happening.
Oh, yes.
There's been roams, there's been pushing towards turrets. It's not been a super slow game just yet, despite low kills.
It's just been clean. You know, Unicorns, they took charge, and everywhere they've made a play, they have come away better.
Yeah, and they're not gambling. They're not going for the crazy 50-50 plays so far. They've always moved in multiple members so that H2k couldn't defend, couldn't force a fight against them. They've always kept track of Smittyj in the top lane, the only play they have to be afraid of at the moment, and it's been a very good early game from Unicorns of Love. Exileh sadly didn't get the blue buff. Can't get it all.
Not this time around. If you look at the minimap, Ward's being pushed deeper into H2k's territory, and of course Smittyj was the threat from H2k. He was shutting down WhiteKnight. Let's take a quick look at WhiteKnight's stats. Come on, let's see if we can test the magic here.
Oh, stats! They're fighting again!
Every single time, there's some magical ability. We will talk about those numbers in a moment. Exileh's trying to put his best Jizuki impression on. Will unfortunately not pull it off this time round.
He's buying time though, 1v2.
Indeed. Look at the minimap. The rest of Unicorns are pushing towards the top.
He's asleep.
That's a sleepy trouble bubble. Paddle star to the face. And today, Exileh adds another isolated death to the cause, but it is in exchange for a top outer turret.
Exactly, and he saved his summoners because he was asleep, so he couldn't actually use the flash when he died, and that meant the team gets a turret for 1 kill only over to H2k. Still a fine trade for the Unicorns of Love. Drake is alive, and they can go grab that one after, because H2k at this point are in that really tough spot they've been in before already, where the early game, it's so slow, and they often maybe only have like one lane they can play around, and the enemy team just kind of counter it. This play here from Exileh, I can't really blame him for trying to go for the 1v2. He knows his team is making a play on the top side, and that's why he's like, you know what, I'll take this one. Looks fine, he could have walked away here, but then Caedrel lands the bubble onto him, and yeah, you can't do much against that one.
You get dunked. But the thing that I like is there was enough communication. Exileh was in the side lane at the right time because his team was setting up top. So even though it looks a little not great, you end up getting the objective, and that is what matters. 20 minutes go by, Deficio. 3,000 gold lead for the Unicorns of Love, and they're scaling very well. They've got a comfortable lead. Now they're going to knock over those inner turrets, and itemization continues to grow. 2 item spikes across the board here.
Yeah, and even better for WhiteKnight. He got, away from his turret died. Meant he kept getting waves pushed towards him. He could just farm and push back. He's been stacking a lot of armor to try and stay alive against Smittyj, and it's much easier for him now to just sit and push the lane out, and then they can play around mid and bot lane. Exileh, he knows he's strong. He takes the 1v1 easily. As long as his team is nearby, he can keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Deficio, you mentioned that Vedius was looking very closely at Unicorns of Love this week. It reminded me of a timeline. It was a pretty dark timeline when Exileh first joined the Unicorns. And he also tried to play side lane.
He did.
On Yasuo.
Oh, God, yes.
And it was not great. It was not a great start to the split. It wasn't a great debut on stage. But as the split went on, as more and more games was under his belt, Exileh grew, Unicorns grew, and they ended up improving as time went on. And this is exactly what you expect of a team that has been in the LCS for such a long time, growth over time.
Fun fact, though, his very first game, you're correct when he showed us the Yasuo for the first time.
Yes.
It was in the silent, but the very first game he played on stage was against Origin and Xpeke in the mid lane. And he won that game with LeBlanc 2-0, because I believe we had best of 2 at that point. I know I said that loud, please don't kill me, but we did have best of 2.
It's not a swear word, Deficio.
Is it not?
It's not.
I thought I only got one of these or something. But he actually carried that game super hard. And he was like split pushing. We were like, whoa, this guy is crazy in the side lane. Then he picked Yasuo the next week and he just died every game. We were like, okay, hang on. Let's see what happens up top.
See, every time we go into story mode, WhiteKnight's going to get pulled backwards into the minions. A lot of damage from the 4-man stack. Ace in the hole, not going to be enough.
Ah, that's not for you, Zoe.
I don't know if the paddle star would have connected anyway, but H2k get themselves a kill.
What they're going to lose?
One tower so far. This will be a second as Samux, Kold, and Totoro are demolishing this mid-inner turret. However, H2k look to take the top inner, so it's a trade. 2 towers for 1, but the extra kill to H2k.
Yeah, but WhiteKnight is definitely calling worth in all chat right there, and also 5-man top question mark, because right now H2k might actually get caught, or at least Smittyj. He's all alone.
Oh, Smittyj, how well can you escape? Teleports as well as flashes up. Sidestep is going to fire down those accelerated push gates, and he's going to get locked into the Oh man, he actually knocks Exileh out to safety. Deficio, you're not meant to point out the waffle.
There's the gears and...
Oh, all of the words just molded into one. But anyway, Smittyj gets shut down, and that means Unicorns, they also get the kill. They also got the tower advantage, and the Totoro-Kold duo pull towards Caedrel and Promisq. Promisq's ultimate's already been used, so he can't use that defensively, and Santorin is forced to flash away. It seems and feels like Baron is now the focus.
Well, let's see if Unicorns Aloft want to start playing around it. They do have great vision control, but obviously now H2k get a chance to clear that out because everyone from Unicorns will kind of go back. Gotta re-push out these lanes. Bot lane is a huge wave. Everyone is missing at the moment.
Yeah.
Also, we got the 4 TPs on H2k's side. We talked about it earlier. It is important to note, if you have the TP with you going into a team fight, that doesn't...
Oh.
Whoa, that's
Is
a lot
that
of
enough for
damage.
kill? So close.
Samux, he knew. He walked away. He didn't even look back.
That was a little close. But to go back to the Baron discussion really quickly, H2k actually have some of the best Baron control of the last few weeks. The only 2 that they have conceded were last week, and they resulted in them losing the game instantaneously.
Yeah.
We showed the Misfits replay. Those 2 opponent Barons on your screen. But the one thing that is just insane is when they conceded those Barons, the average opponent Baron power play was 7,200 gold, which is insanely huge.
Because the teams always have to take multiple towers down before they got to finish the game. It wasn't like H2k had already lost the entire base and you just had to run and finish. It was actually even, and then the Baron goes over to the other team and they lose everything. If that happens in this game, well, they have been behind all game long. There's still enough turrets for them to try and stall, and they have Zoe, who can constantly try and land this poke we've seen already to try and prevent Unicorns from maybe getting Baron and finishing the game. But Exileh, crazy man in the side lane, getting some more damage on this turret. Caedrel here to defend. Remember again, 4 TPs on H2k, so they can easily defend bot lane and then still TP into a fight.
And every single time Exileh is applying pressure, the rest of the Unicorns are grouped up, setting up vision, getting themselves in position to challenge for a cross-map play.
And I almost feel at this point, you have too many TPs on H2k because you are looking to team fight, and the TP is not going to help you in the actual team fight itself. That's why you want either a more offensive summoner or more defensive summoner, not a global.
Yes.
So if you are H2k, unless you're planning on trying to set up some sort of cross-map play, which you can't really do seeing as you're pushed back to your tier 2 turrets, so you can't really trade for anything at the moment. You do need some combat summoners.
Okay, gonna remind you of those stats. If Unicorns pick up this Baron, the average Baron power play, 7,200. I want to start that timer.
Exileh is fighting Trevor.
He is indeed. Exileh is
something
just...
with a number.
By the way, take a look at the gold difference. The observers can flick over between Exileh and Caedrel. 2,000 gold separates these guys already. 50 CS, the tower gold, the kills. Exileh is taking over this game, and Caedrel opted into this matchup. He picked Zoe after the first pick Ryze.
And then Kold said, here's my Jarvan.
Yep.
And Kold went mid. The Danes invaded the British once again. It was successful. And they shut down Caedrel. Just like we did 1,000 years ago. Go Vikings.
If anybody doesn't know, Deficio is a Danish Viking aficionado.
Like every day.
Loads of information about it. Nobody saw that fail over the wall. WhiteKnight caught just a glimpse of it. Totoro is going to try to escape with that unbreakable will slowly time out as Promisq gets himself a little tag on the slow. And the Unicorns unable to take the Baron, but they forced a couple flashes, or just the one rather. Maintain their 4,000 gold lead.
We got the bubble.
It is sleepy, but no trouble today. Because Caedrel just can't quite close the gap. But the main thing is, Unicorns have maybe sort of attempted the Baron, attempted the setup, but they're not pulling the trigger yet.
Well, they have been doing a good job in the bot lane. Exileh almost took down the turret. Needs to just set up the exact same play again, where he's pushing bot side, WhiteKnight pushes top, and Samux pushes mid. And then Exileh should be able to get this turret down, because no one can like easily 1v1 him. I'm still waiting to see what these 4 TPs can do, seeing as H2k keep them on all 4 members and not switch them around. Is it a play where they go 5-man bot to kill Exileh, then TP straight to Baron?
Yeah.
Like, that is something you can do, and it's kind of crazy because the macro part of this game now, when it's possible that you have so many globals, it's kind of crazy and hard to predict what's going to happen, because teams can go for some crazy moves where suddenly you normally would never do it.
You have to do something, right?
You have to do something.
You have to use the teleports and find the up-jump. I'm looking at the wards in the river for H2k. There's not a lot. Exileh's picking a fight with Smittyj. Overload after overload, using that spell flux, and despite taking a shock blast to the face.
We have to remember Smittyj's build is auto-attack focused. It is not pure poke focused. There's no lethality from him on this side here. He needs to constantly hit with Black Cleaver. We'll actually get that TP gank, gank bot into TP to Baron.
Let's try that again. So start that over.
Okay, sorry. We almost had the bot lane from H2k ganking Exileh bot to then TP into the Baron. Now they're running there. You have TPs, man. They're running there.
Didn't help yourself on that one. Exileh's taken the tower in the bottom lane. H2k
almost went to the bot lane.
Have no idea how to stop this push.
Well, Smittyj, as I was trying to say before I got onto the TPs, can't get enough autos off, except for now.
All right, he's going to look for the chase. There's the shield for Exileh. Minion wave will help out Exileh, and Smittyj decides to turn away. Caedrel dashes forward and continues to back up the rest of Unicorns. They're starting off the Baron.
Yeah, but we have Caedrel and Smittyj. They can TP to the Baron.
4,000 hit points, 3,000 hit points, H2k. They've not pulled the trigger yet. Totoro's backing away, but so are the Unicorns. They don't finish off the Baron. No teleports are used. And we continue to fall.
That could have been a big one.
That was very close.
Missed it. Instead, mid lane turret taking damage here. Unicorns of Love did not want to risk Santorin stealing the Baron. They had the Alistar outside the pit, though. I think they could have tried to commit to it and then just headbutt Santorin away before he got in range. But they did not want to risk it. So 29 minutes in. Still only 5 kills, but Unicorns in control. And Exileh finally got the bot lane inhib turret.
Martin, I have another quick stat for you. Of the dragons that have been killed this game, 3 of them Clouds. No other EU LCS game has had 3 Cloud Drakes killed. Also, Unicorns of Love have killed 8 dragons this split.
This game might be the rule breaker.
It might be. 3 of those 8 dragons were Clouds. And if UOL can get this Ocean, it'll be the first time in 2018 on this stage.
Wow.
There's a quick stat for you.
That is
take to the bank.
Truly a useless stat that didn't benefit anyone. But Exileh, he doesn't care.
Got a question for you, which I'll ask after this fight. Smittyj's running all the way down. Caedrel, I think the minions actually blocked. That's a very good paddle star. Hex Trick is going to pop. More of Malmortius comes up. Secondary shot goes down. Exileh continues to run, continues to chase down Exileh. Looking to turn it around. Flashes forward. The hammer comes down from Smittyj. To the right. Round warp. Hourglass escape. The Deficio combo saves Exileh's life.
Alright, that was pretty cool. I can accept it this time around. They're starting Baron again. The Alistar is trying to deny the Zac.
Well, let's take a look at the smites. Kold level 13, Santorin level 13. They found the teleport button. H2k figured out they have a second summoner spell. The Unbreakable is thrown out by Totoro. He's looking to fight. Pick a fight. WhiteKnight gets him into the wall with the Gnar. Here comes the backup. Unicorns take down Smittyj. Kold is golden for now as the satchel charge is being hammered away. That's another for UOL. Exileh gets them down. Running down Promisq and Caedrel. The spell flux is bouncing. Another stopwatch goes on. A double for Exileh. Closed up by Totoro, and Unicorns get 4 kills.
And it all starts in that bot lane when Exileh is playing 1v2 against Caedrel and Smittyj. He then uses his combo to get out. And of course, his TP was already there, so he came into the fight. And Unicorns once again did not want to risk a 50-50 Baron, so they walk out and they take the team fight instead, and they win it. Great play from Unicorns of Love. They get the Baron at 31 minutes. If we stick to the week 2 tradition, then Unicorns of Love will win within the next 2 minutes of the game.
But 2.5 if you average it out technically.
It's actually amazing how one team in Europe in week 2 tried to pull the average game time down.
Yes.
It was H2k.
Single-handedly.
They lost around 30 minutes both games.
Yes. And of course it was within 3 minutes of giving out the Baron. Actually, against Misfits, it was 1 minute 9 seconds after that Baron. Okay, so here was the setup. Unicorns of Love trying to pull the distraction. What do you make of the fight?
Well, once we actually get the Alistar ulti to delay it, I like the call from Unicorns. They know that 5 members around, but they also know they're strong. They can take a team fight here against H2k. The Jayce in team fights, it's so hard to execute it properly. Same thing with Zoe when you can't land the poke first. We already mentioned this earlier, so Unicorns know that comp is better for team fighting. So why not just take it? And that's exactly what they do. Don't risk any Baron steals when you know you're stronger in team fights.
And of course, this all started because of Exileh's 1v2 in the bottom lane. You know, Exileh picked that fight with Smittyj and Caedrel. Caedrel and Smittyj opted into it.
German faker, basically.
And managed to escape. So, very good performance here from Exileh, as well as the rest of Unicorns, playing the map, playing the pressure game well.
We always have a lot of questions regarding his performance, but when he shows up in a game like this, he applies so much pressure to the enemy team. Even with all the TPs, they couldn't send multiple members bot and kill him and then go into the Baron fight. They could never actually really push past the river in the last 15 minutes, basically, for H2k. So they've been forced so far back on the map. They're trying to wave clear now, but the bot lane is already open. The turret died much earlier in this game, and now there's Baron buffed minions. Exileh's combo is ready with the Hourglass and Ryze ult. Can enjoy that one for one more patch, the way it looks right now.
Oh man, I can't wait for that combo to be removed. Let's talk about the items, by the way, on the supports, because of course they theoretically could have started spending earlier. What do you make of Locket, Righteous Glory, as well as just that Celestial Eye on the side of Promisq? I mean, are we seeing more? Are we seeing less than what we would usually have seen at this point?
This is pretty standard so far. They spent, I think it's a total of 1,800 gold on upgrading from Targon's up. When you do the full upgrade, all the gold combined is around 1,800 to get Eye of the Watchers there, or as it's called
Celestial
now,
Eye.
the Eye of the Aspect.
Oh, Eye of the Aspect.
Excuse me. Fully upgraded.
That's it.
So that is what we get with the Sightstone for now. For the supports, nothing too fancy. Maybe we get some other ones in the next few games we can talk about.
I think we are on track for that 3-minute game victory if Unicorns continue
They gotta hurry, though. They gotta hurry.
They've got 3 inhibitors down.
Got another TP now.
Oh, will die shortly anyway. Exileh turns that one around onto Sheriff. Here comes Totoro. Totoro's looking to interrupt. Exileh already forced to flash. Kold's got the Cataclysm available. Needs to lock people in. Forward and dunk. Defensive flash from Sheriff, and they're running for their lives. WhiteKnight uses the walls of the Cataclysm to stun Smittyj. Still nobody has died, but Samux is hammering away on the Nexus turrets. The first has already fallen, and the second continues to. 35 seconds before they die. H2k might make this 3 games in a row where they lose in the duration of Baron buff. Forced to flash away defensively. Totoro is the first victim for the Unicorns of Love. But look at the Baron empowered minions. They're pouring through the lane. WhiteKnight and Exileh are taking everybody down. And for the 3rd time in a row, H2k are defeated. But it's the first of the split for the Unicorns of Love.
And overall, a really good game for Unicorns of Love here. They played around mid lane first. Good gank from Kold, getting that first blood for Exileh, and then Exileh controlled the mid lane, went to the side lane later. Played 1v2 in the side lane, was annoying the entire game long, and the one winning lane for H2k top was Smittyj. He got his turret, he did his job. But then he couldn't do anything else because they were losing mid, they were losing bottom. Whenever he moved past the river, he just got ganked. So they couldn't utilize a split pushing Jayce, and they couldn't group and win team fights because their comp was weaker in team fights. H2k couldn't afford to fall behind the way they did. Sadly for them, it's another game with a very, very slow, passive early mid game. and it gets punished.
And for the Unicorns, almost the opposite. Controlled early game, decisive, the right place at the right time. And that man on your screen, Kold, set Exileh up. Exile's most played champion on the EU LCS stage is Ryze, 23 games played.
And his best champion.
And he just picked up his 12th win, so a little over 50% win ratio. But that was an impressive victory for UOL, in my opinion. However, you have to color it against the fact that this is the 9th and 10th ranked teams at the moment. Maybe not officially in standings, but you know, in terms of performance, in terms of the shakiness we've seen.
I mean, luckily, it's early on in the split for both teams. There is still plenty of time, but getting this win here for Unicorns of Love, tying H2k down at the bottom.
1-4 now,
1-4 both teams. It is important, and I guess also for Unicorns of Love, getting some confirmation in that some of the things you're working on in practice pays off. It's worth it, because now you see improvement from last week to this week. Great use of the Ryze here, and good early game. And another good game from Kold as well.
I mean, we had question marks around Exile's performance. We looked at all of his stats we were showing. We had question marks around Kold's impact. You know, he was running, what, the Rengar, the Kayn, the Evelynn.
Yeah.
Unable to make impacts. Goes to the Jarvan, instant successful gank, and starts the trickle, at least the snowball, at least the eventual win.
100% win rate for Kold when he's not on a pure carry jungler. Confirmed that Kold needs to play Jarvan, Zac, Sejuani.
Well, Sejuani was banned away this game.
Also,
she's going to show up.
Unicorns of Love just won a game despite getting first Drake, first turret, and first blood.
They go against the odds. What is the probability of that? Anyways, after the break, we'll hear from Giants coach Totoro before two of the top teams in the EU LCS, Rocket and Giants, get a chance to sit alone on top of the table as they're battling for first place. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. While talking about fighting, Kold fancies himself a shot at Caedrel. Rune Prison continues to chase down Caedrel. Flash is available. First blood picked up by Kold and Exileh. Right step is going to fire down those accelerated push gates, and he's going to be locked into the Oh man, well, Exileh gets them down. Running down Promisq and Caedrel, the spell flux is bouncing. Another stopwatch goes on. A double for Exileh. But look at the Baron and Power minions. They're pouring through the lane. WhiteKnight and Exileh are taking everybody down. And for the third time in a row, H2k are defeated. But it's the first of the split for the